Hi and welcome to this video on doing video game music on a budget. This time I'm diving into the whole genre thing of the dungeon crawl and stuff like all the Diablo games and Path of Exile and so on and so on. And there are some key differences when it comes to music for this kind of game, which I would love to dive into. But before I start diving into how I've done things and what I've done, I have this short little quick demo that I've done. So let's give it a listen, and I'll kind of talk about what I did and the reason why and so on. So one thing that you might get from this right at the start is that it's a very ambient piece of music. There are absolutely no drums or percussion or whatsoever. There are maybe some small elements that kind of works in the same frequency range and so on, but I'm kind of trying to stay as much as possible away from percussion when doing stuff like this, because when it comes to dungeon crawlers, there are of course places in the game where you will be roaming around town and going from place A to place B, where you're gonna need ambient music anyways. But when you get to the action of a dungeon crawler, there tends to be a lot of actions, like a lot of enemies and a lot of hacking and slashing at the same time. And when it comes to these types of games and when it comes to the action parts, I'm sorry to say to all the composer friends out there, but sound design is king. You cannot get in the way of the sound design when it comes to this, because if you have a lot of drums banging around and a lot of swords clanging and a lot of gutter sounds when people die and so on, all these things are kind of in the same mid to high mid frequency range as many drums are, so you will get a big clash. So the sound effects would sound like absolute shite, and so would the music, because they are kind of always competing for the same frequencies, right? So to take you can listen to one of my absolute favorites, Diablo. You don't have a lot of percussion in all of the in-game world stuff. Now, when it comes to cutscenes and so on, that's where you can bring out some of the fun stuff, because you are probably scoring that to already animated pictures or stuff that is supposed to be animated later, and you can kind of work the drums and percussion with how the picture kind of evolves and so on. So that's why there are no drums and percussion in this, just to get that out of the way. Also, so because this is video game music on a budget, I have done this so all these different parts kind of work together, no matter how I kind of set them up and put them together and so on. And as you can see, I've done these markers, which is kind of, well, it was my help when it came to writing this, but it's kind of what I see as the different sections. So between 1 and 2 here, we have one section, which is an intro part, right? And the second part here with the number 2 marker is basically the same stuff, but with new elements applied to it. So we could just continue the loop with what we had from before, besides minor melody changes and so on. And we could also just switch it up and only go with this layer. You know, it depends on where you are in the game. Are you in a town? Are you out and about? Is something scary about to happen? So this whole long thing could work as a loop. Every single instrument could work on its own, and you could match it just how you would like. If I would like these parts only, it would easily work, right? And also this first part fits perfectly together melody-wise and key-wise and so on with this whole part. So that would kind of be my main theme, so to speak. So if we had a main menu that we need to put some music through, I would take this part and this part and delete all this in the middle and just clash them together, and you have one short melodic main theme that evolves through the short piece. And what we also have is this big middle part, because we can't just circle around in the same 4 chords and again and the same melody, right? It might grow in intensity, but it's basically the same stuff. So we need some other music for other parts of the game, like this. Now we're much more ambient, a bit darker. You know, this could be a whole other section of the game. It could be something happening or a lot less happening. So we got this, and again, the different instrument layers can just work on their own. Right, and the same for the section when we get over here. Now, with this, suddenly a big choir pops in, kind of out of nowhere in this piece, right? And what I'm thinking of this is very much inspired by Diablo. I'll admit that, hence the guitar parts. But what I'm thinking is that if we have, for example, I'm imagining this game. So if we have a game where all this will fit, all the different parts will fit together, and we're gonna have lighter-hearted things in the game. We're gonna have battle and destruction and a lot of stuff. Then I'm just imagining, hey, what if we end up in some catacombs or something like that, and then we have a choir playing. Or if the game is so low budget that we do not have have money to do actual scores for cutscenes, now we have a whole other option of music. Which again, where we can take the different stems if we like. Or just this. We can use everything together, and that's kind of the whole idea of this, right? And then we get to the last section, which is basically just the first part of music again, with new stuff added, right? So that's kind of the whole idea behind it, right? We have this ambient piece that doesn't get in the way of sound design when sound design really needs to shine. And we have all the places in the game kind of covered. Of course, as a composer, and probably also as a game developer, you would love to have 90 or 120 minutes of music, right? Which fits every small pixel of the game. But fact just is that while we have that in AAA, and that can be really fun to do, in indie games we are very limited. Probably a lot of times there are going to be little to close to no budget at all, actually. So that's kind of my whole philosophy behind these short little tracks and videos, is that we need to cover as much ground as possible with as little music as possible to keep the costs down but the quality up, right? So that's basically my short little idea for a dungeon crawler. If you want more of this stuff, please do tell me, and if you have any ideas for certain genres you would like for me to dive into, that would also be very nice, because that way I can get these videos out much quicker, because I'll actually know what to do. So thank you for stopping by. I hope you got something out of it. If you didn't, well, I'm sorry. Have a good one. Bye.